Yeah, no
Okay.
echo for.
Maybe you have like LinkedIn and Twitter and yeah, you
Yep,
probably have two tabs open.
nice.
Okay, fine.
Oh,
So
nice. I can see that
apparently
there's
everybody is fine.
many people today. Whoa,
Hi
nice.
everyone. I'm happy to see that much people today.
So maybe we can deep dive already in what you're gonna build, Aurélie.
Yep.
So we'll share your screen and let's get into
So
it.
I try to be prepared for this. So I've made this component in advance to be sure I will not have any trap stuff, because when you are doing development, especially with third-party libraries, you always have surprises. So this is the final look of what we will redo today together. So it's basically just a list you can sort, and you can reorder and drag and drop between different stuff. Under this, we are using a library called Vue Sortable, which was like the best library to do that. Apparently, it's not true anymore since the start of this year, because the maintainer has stopped maintaining it. Uh, but it's the open source world that will probably have other libraries later, and everything we will see today can still be applied to any other libraries.
Yeah, and that's the thing though, because you'll be adding a library, an open source library in your component, and in the end that will show you that you can embed any library you want. So if you want to redo a component and changing the library yourself, you can do it. Just have to follow what Aurélie will do
Yeah.
today. And we're
So
using this library, if I'm not mistaken, for like handling drag and drop. That's right.
yeah, it's for the drag and drop part, and like all
Okay.
the animation, and because there is a lot of different way to do it. I just choose to. I think we are using it in WeWeb for the class, for reordering the class. It's this library, so it's also something we use in the editor. Um, so basically, just a small
I'm
introduction.
just,
Yeah.
yeah, stopping you. Sorry, because yeah, feel free to basically ask us questions on the go. We'll answer them, yeah, on the fly. So we have a first one. Would it be possible to create a custom component that can stream a response from an API, OpenAI chat streaming response? So actually, yes, I think, but
And
that
do
would be more
everything.
of a plugin, and plugin will open them later. So plugin basically are like ways to improve the experience in the editor, like for example, adding Xano, OpenAI, these kind of things. And the thing is, we are still working on the developer experience for plugins, so they are not opened yet. So what we'll show today is more like kind of components, like UI components that you can use in your app. And for the specific question of OpenAI chat streaming response, we're working on this for the OpenAI plugin, so it will be live next week, I think.
Okay, so I see another question. Do you want
Yeah.
to enter? Yeah.
Will the Mac will will there be a marketplace for developers to build component to sell? Yeah, basically, a marketplace will be available for developers and for no coders, because we are working. We just released classes and we'll release reusable components soon. So everybody will be able to create components and plugins. And when this will be like when we will release this, after this will work on the marketplace. But I think the marketplace is a subject for early next year or the end of the year, but more next year, because we have like a lot of many things to work on before.
But we are working on tools who make it available to work with another way to sell it. Like, for example, if you have your own website and a way to make your customer pay, then you can give them access to some code and they can use it. So basically, every component you build in code can be used in another application. And with components, and we are working on export, import, you will be able to do the same with no code
Yeah.
component, with formulas, with layout, with design, with
Yeah.
everything.
And spoiler alert, what will probably happen is that we are working on a kind of MVP for a marketplace, which will be just copy pasting JSON that
Yeah.
will basically store the configuration of an element or a plugin that you will be able to share between users. And then it will be like the first step towards the marketplace that will be a fully blown website in the end.
I was
Yeah,
working on this afternoon, so
nice. So
it's
let's get
currently undergoing.
nice. Let's
Um,
get back into it.
Yes. So first step, you will need to have the basic web developer tools. So if you are already familiar with any web developments, this will be exactly the same tools, because at WeWeb we choose to try to follow the web development standard as much as possible. So every resources you will find online which apply to a Vue application can be used for WeWeb. There is a few exceptions, but normally not that much. So the first things you need to do is you go on, because I was already on the dev mode, but when we are working on a component, we need to go to a special editor, which is the dev editor, which will allow you to load the component you are currently working on, and who will have more tools to help you through the development. So you just have to click here on the dev tabs, and here you have an open dev editor. And this is where I was before. And another two things really important when you are working with custom components is to go to the documentation and the public repositories. So documentation is not 100% up to date, but all the basics and most of the API are documented here, and it's on our roadmap to rewrite it from scratch. So don't hesitate to take a look and give us feedback, because if there is something which is not clear or you really want to see here, it's cool if we have the feedback. So when we will work on it, we will take this into account. And as I said, you also have our own component. It's something we have decided at WeWeb, is that all our components are open source. So if you want to know how we have done the data grid or the select or every component you see in WeWeb, you can just take a look at how the code is doing, and it can inspire you or give you tips and tricks for how to do custom interface. You have to know that our component are often complex in the sense that because we are WeWeb, we need our component to be the most generic possible. So we have to handle a lot of corner cases, and we have we need our component to work in different settings and setups, and to have very nice UX. So often the complexity of our component is just to handle that. The code itself is not that complex, but we will put a lot of effort to make the sidebar easy to use for the user, or handling a lot of different options and stuff like that. So don't be afraid if you see that the code seems complicated, because often it's not that much. Okay, so if you go on the documentation, you will see that there is a command to initiate a new repository to start working. Recently, we have updated our Node version to the most recent one. So you need to be sure that your Node version is 18 or more, which means the latest one.
I hope like everybody in the chat knows, like you can ask questions if you don't know what Node is, for example, or NPM, because we are going to rely on this tool a lot. But basically, like you need to be a bit aware of the JavaScript ecosystem, and especially the VueJS one. But that's really standard. That's open source stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. I advise you to use NVM. So it's for Node version manager, to install a node, so it's easy for you to switch between version. There is a special version for Windows, and there is one version for Mac and any Linux system. So please double check that you are using the good Node version, and if you have some build error, it may probably come because of your Node version. And then here we will use npm, which is the packet manager for Node. And we will use a special feature of npm, which is we can provide it a repository, and it will use it as a template to initiate a folder. This is exactly what we will do. So I will say I want to start a WeWeb component. So first he will ask me how I gonna name it. So I will say sortable list, like it's up to you, it's on your system. And then there is two type of components. There is element and there is section. Basically, section are everything which are at the root. Basically, it's the one you can select here. There is very little corner cases when you will want to do section. It can happen like for modal or for navigation bar or some stuff will really need to be by themselves and not be added into something else. But most of the time, to make it more easy to use and to be used in a lot of different use cases, it's better to do an element, because an element can be drag and dropped inside another one. And so you make it more flexible to use for your...
Basically, yeah, a section is like a big chunk of a page, like a hero, sidebar, modal, these kind of things. When an element is like a button, a form, like small elements that you can use
Or
inside
can be a
section.
very complex one, like a kanban or something like that.
Yeah, true.
But living inside something else. I think at WeWeb, we currently have not that much section in the code part, maybe like 3, something like that. So this is not the most frequent one. So I will say that I want an element. And so it has created me a repository. And I will need to run 2 commands, one to install, and I will kill my other one here. One to install all the dependencies, and one to start serving my version of the component. I will just open the folder so you may have a look at what it's looking like inside. And I will just run the npm install in the same time, so and work in the background. So basically, you will see that there is not that much file, because a WeWeb component is not that complicated. So first, for people who are used to web development, you have the package.json, which is all the dependencies of your project and some metadata about it. And you will see that there is only one dependence when you start. It's the dependence to the CLI, which is all the tools to build and pushed in production your component. And you have name and version and stuff like that. Later, we will be able to add other dependencies depending on your use case. So for example, for us, we will use the Vue Draggable library, and this will appear here. Then a WeWeb component is just a Vue component. So if you are familiar with Vue development or any similar framework like Vue, React, Angular, Svelte, Ember, I don't know, depending.
You're getting to the old ones.
I can go to the old one. One specificity of Vue is to have everything in one file. So you have the template of your component, the script of your component, and the style of your component. And there is nothing specific to WeWeb here. The only thing is that you have to define some props, because this will be the props that the WeWeb will pass to your component and that you will be able to use. But except from that, everything is the same as a standard Vue component, which is extremely relevant, meaning you can use almost every library existing which can work with Vue.
Because when you think about it, actually a component inside WeWeb, an element or a section, just a VueJS component. And when you're like adding stuff in the right sidebar, like designs, or like props, text that's bindable, that's actually props that we're passing to the component. So it's really standard VueJS component in the end.
And then you have the WeWeb specific part, which is a configuration file, which will have some description of your components so that the editor can understand what your components need and what are the properties and metadata and everything.
And that will be displayed. You will see this later, but just to understand, that will be displayed to the end user in the editor. For example, if you need a new setting in the right sidebar, that's here that you will have to set up this so that the end user can actually modify it.
Yeah. So everything I have here, I have a label. So I will just change it and name it sortable lists. And then for now, I have a property text color, which is used. And so I'm describing what are the different properties of my component. And so I'm saying I'm expecting to receive from the user a text color, which is a color. And I will remove the default value. And here I'm using VueJS logic to use this parameter. And here I'm putting it as a color format for my text. And so now I want to start to try this. So I will just run this comment. Is there TypeScript support? For now, no, there is no TypeScript support. It's a choice we made because first we choose Vue because it's an awesome framework, but it's also because it's a very accessible one. And if we add TypeScript, it's something more than people need to learn. So we decided not to go with the TypeScript path. Maybe that was a mistake. I don't know. But for now, no, it's not using TypeScript. But for the schema of the config, I think when we will work on the developer experience, which is at the end of the year, I will probably work on a JSON schema so that you still have validation and completion from your IDE when you are trying to add properties.
Yeah, that's nice. I think the idea also behind not adding TypeScript yet is that some libraries that you add, they don't have like types. So TypeScript is like rejecting them, and we want all.
Now it's really standard. Almost.
Standard? Okay, my bad.
Almost. Yeah. It's
nice.
It's a revolution. TypeScript is it's
So
more
maybe
the
we'll add
norm
it.
now. Yeah, it's as I said, it was a choice because it can be much more intimidating to see a TypeScript code.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, so now that I will just clear my previous element, and
so we've got another question. Could you import a Vue.js library like Vue Material Kit and use it as is, only with the props inside it? So actually, you would need to translate the components inside as WeWeb components. So you can't like use it as is, but you could like translate it and reuse it.
Yeah, but
WeWeb.
we will use a library just here. Just be aware that here you are developing a component. So there is some libraries which are not working well to be like very individual part of the app, and they're required to have like some global settings. This one can be a bit more challenging to integrate because you don't have easily access to the main application. But that's still doable. But all the other all the other library which provide you just components, yes, they will be available, and this is what we will do right now.
I think the only limitation we have currently is that you need one repository for one component, so you need like many repositories to do a UI kit, like fully fledged. But that's something we will work on also when we'll tackle developer experience. Because keep in mind that that's how we work internally, and we're showing this because we want you guys, for example, to begin to use it. But that's something that's still in beta. Even between ourselves, we're kind of changing the API sometimes. So that's why it's not fully documented yet. And but we plan to really standardize this by the end of the year.
So basically here, I want to notify the editor that I want to work with my local version of my component. So I will say I want to work with a local version. Here you have a choice to either use a new component or replace an existing component on the page by your component. It's really useful if you are working on a version 2 of your component and this component requires a lot of bindings and settings, or you want to debug it for what is doing interacting with other on a page template. And then you can just replace your components by the version you are currently working on. In my use case, it's not existing yet. So I will say I want a custom component. I will name it sortable list. And because we are using SSL certificates, and that's in development, you generate certificates which are not supported by an organization because it's a local one. You need to tell Chrome that what you are doing is okay and you know what you are doing, because if you don't do that, Chrome will block a lot of stuff. So this is a very common dev stuff, but here I need to say I know what I'm doing, and I will see this page saying, okay, now Chrome give us access to what we want. And here I can save. This will reload my editor. And now here I have access to this component, and I can drag and drop here, and I have my custom components. And you see that there is a text color property. And if I change it, the color is changing over there.
So that's the one you have in the actual component. Nice.
Yes.
Cool.
And if I change it, I can I am a new component. And I have reloading working normally. Where is it? Okay, this is the bug I have previously. So it's just another one. It's just my socket are in another apps, and I just need to validate it as well. I know what I'm doing. Thank you. It's Chrome. Every update on Chrome is a nightmare for the developer. So you will see that my page has refreshed, and each time your page refresh, we are not saving anything. Why? Because you are in dev mode, and in dev mode, you may be adding new properties which is not existing on the production. You may be breaking stuff. So by design, nothing is saved on the dev mode. So this is why it's important to, like I have done, prepare some stuff. So I have a bunch of class and example I will want to work with. And I have done this in the normal editor so that it's saved. And so each time I will be updating my page, I have less stuff to do to have my working dev environment. So
yeah, that's something we saw a lot, like people telling us, yeah, it's not saved when I'm in the dev mode, and that's something that's actually the right behavior. So try not to modify your app, because some people, they were developing components and at the same time they were changing the rest of the app, and that won't be saved. So you shouldn't be using like the dev editor when you want to do
now
changes.
I can redo my demo, and normally it will work now. So I am really a new component. Let's see, and now it works, like it has refreshed. So most of the time we will be able to replace it, and you will not have to reload the page. So you will be able to continue to work. There is some settings, when you change them, the page needs to reload. So be aware that that's here. And yep. So now we want to do something more useful than just a text with changing color, which is something we can already do. So I will remove here. I don't want to work with these properties anymore. It's not useful for me. And I will go back to something very straightforward. So I'm starting from scratch. So I just have a list here. And the first things I want to have is being able to bind items and to iterate on these items. So when we are here and we say, oh, how can I do that? As I say, the best things to do is to take a look at how it's working. So you can go,
you're a real
for
dev,
example,
copy-pasting other code?
I'm copy-pasting everything. So I can go and take a look at how it's working for the data grid, for example. And I see that the data grid has a property data, which is here with a bunch of properties. And this is exactly what I want. So I will just take it, and we will take a look about how we can use it. So I will need, do I need that? Yes. So I will go here, I will go here, and I will add here. So now I say I have a data property. I will say that's my items. And I'm asking to bind data. It's a repeatable, meaning I will use this data to iterate an element on the page. And I will be able to have binding depending on the context of my repeat here, because this is exactly what you want here. You will have a repeat and you want your text to be bind to the property of your element or something like that. I will not say default value. I can put it in one of the two tabs of the settings, and I can give some hints to the user describing what I'm expecting here. Okay, and let's go here. I have too many windows open.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah.
I don't know, your computer is not crashing already, but yeah.
No need to crash. And then how is it used? So I will go and I will take a look at how the data grid is using it. And it's using a special component called WoW layout. So I will take
So Matthews is asking if those properties are specific to WeWeb or native to Vue.
Which
like,
one?
You mean the one in the
everything on the
WoW
config file is specific to WeWeb.
Yeah.
Everything else, it's how Vue work.
Because basically what we call the WW file, we call them WoW, and like the WoW config.js is like you're telling the editor what type of data the user can enter and use, and if they are repeatable, if they are colors, text, I mean everything, and then you will just pass it to the Vue component. But that's basically a JavaScript object, so that's standard. But it's just like kind of a mapping, so that WeWeb can translate this, knows what to expect, what the components expect, and how you use it in your component. It's totally VueJS stuff. It's not even WeWeb.
So we just do that, and I will say I want a WoW layout, and I want it to be on the data. And I will do something which is also useful. I will show you quickly after. But there is some behavior you often want to reuse, and you don't want to describe again all the properties linked to that. And so you can inherit from other components. And there is two components you want to inherit, like you can inherit for, which are the layout and the text. So basically, if your component is a container for something, you can inherit from layout. And if your component is like just formatting a bunch of text, you can inherit from text. So here I'm saying I want to inherit from layout. And what you will do is, normally I will have the demo effect, right? This is how it works.
Obviously, you will have it.
Obviously. So here I have an empty here, empty stuff. But because I have said it's inheriting and perfect, it's not working. Why? Did I put it in the correct space? I love demo effects. Let me retry. But normally, if I do that, oh, I was selecting the incorrect one. No. Oh, yes, I remember. I had this problem when I need another option here. Sorry.
No worries. That's the joy of coding.
Yeah.
If it works for the first time, like, you know something's wrong.
Probably. So I have my component. It's here. It's a sortable list. And now it's displaying as a flex. And because I have said it's a layout, you have all these settings here already here and working. Because you are having a WoW layout inside, this will work. So if I put some elements inside that. So upload a bunch of texts. Because here I make it inherit from layout, I can already change a bunch of properties for free, which is useful because really you don't want to redescribe everything just for that.
So it's inheriting the layout element from WeWeb?
Yes.
Okay.
So this is how it's working.
So it's like if you're, basically your component becomes the children of the layout element. Like.
Yeah, it's just saying you will have the special section layout. And
okay.
It's saying that you will have all these properties and they are with special key. And because we know this key, there is a bunch of properties like the style and stuff we can automatically detect and calculate for you. So it's like having a bunch of things already working in your component and you don't have to think about. And because I'm using class, I can also say that's a list and I will have nice looking stuff. So that's the first things. And I have my items. And here what and it's here when you will start to think how do I want my component to work and to be used. And in my use case, I think it's easier if the user, they just have a flex box, like which will represent an item. And then I will just repeat this flex box for each item in the list. And then they will be able to put whatever they want inside this flex box, like this item container. So for that, I will need to create an item container child element. And this is exactly what I will do here. So I will say that I have a property, which is an item container. I will hide it from the side panel because this is a technical properties, which doesn't need to be editing by the user on the side panel. And I have the special default value, which say it's an object. So it's a WeWeb object. And it's a flexbox because this is the one I want. And here I will update a bit what I want to have here. And I will say I want a list. And I want here and use another properties, which is a simple layout stuff. Or I can do maybe like that. I can describe what I want inside. Ooh, thank you. that's really not I want. That's what I want. But thank you anyway. So as I said here, I want to have more control about how my data are repeated. So I will just release the WoW layout and I will do the repeat myself. And on the repeat, I just want to repeat here.
We should train WeWeb GitHub Copilot on WeWeb elements.
Yeah, the more I will write stuff, the more you will know what I want to do. But
so we got a question. Do you have an option or plugin on WeWeb to create automatically a PDF? We are working on that as we speak. It should be live in a few weeks. And basically, we are like trying the different JavaScript libraries. So if you guys have any suggestions, we are happy to hear them. But we'll basically do this inside WeWeb. I think it will be live in 2 to 4 weeks max.
I will do a sample loop, which here is basically basic Vue element. And here I will put a special stuff, which is a WoW layout item context, which lets you put context on your element. And this is really useful if you want to do any binding inside. So I will show you quickly. I'm just putting everything needed here.
So basically passing props.
Yeah, so
to
here
WeWeb
it's just a wrapper which will give context to the element inside. So you will quickly see what I'm talking about when I will show you that. But now I have my list, and I have this when I can bind data. And I have
Nice.
prepared here something.
Nice.
And you
Come
see that
prepared.
everything here, it's repeat for each element I have bind in my items. And here, if I want, I can drag and drop a text. And I have my text repeat for every element. And because I have put this special giving context to the underlying flexbox, here when I'm binding, I have access to the repeat item. So I can, for example, say I want to display first name, last name here. And I will have first name, last name of everyone. And because I have respected all the standard of WeWeb, I can just put a class here, which is a class for a flexbox, and I will have this nice stuff working. And here I can just say, I'm an item, and I'm starting
That's really cool.
Something looking like cool with a few lines of code.
I love that you're showcasing the classes already.
Yeah,
Because we just released them.
I'm working on it for a long time, so for me it's not new. So what if it's not an array? So here we are going to what's going on if your user is doing something not nice, which is basically meaning you need to be sure of the data your user is giving to you. Most of the time, what we will do is either we let the component do something wrong, like nothing will happen, or there will be an error, or we try to do what we call defensive code, and we will have an internal variables who will check if the data are an array, for example, like what we expect to be. And if not, we will return an empty array or something like that.
But in this specific use case, the component won't crash. It will just not display, no?
Yeah, there will be nothing displayed.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's depending what you are doing with the data, for example.
Matthews is saying, if you added the text element in the code, is it possible to drag the text element into your custom component from within the WeWeb add element interface?
This is what I have done.
Yeah, that's what we have done. Like the text was added because
basically the text was added before.
Yeah, when you use a WoW layout, if I'm not mistaken, it becomes what we call a drop zone. So you can drag and drop any
it's because element. Here I have a repeat. So here it's what's giving the binding context.
Yeah.
And here it's something really powerful with WeWeb is that you can render another element. And so here I have decided to render a flexbox. So I have created a flexbox, but because this is a flexbox, you can drag and drop whatever you want inside it. And so the user is free to have a template looking exactly what he wants. So for example, here you see that I have an icon. So I can just take this icon and put it here. And because it's a flexbox, it's working. And I can delete this because I don't like it and I want this design. So I'm taking it from here and I'm just redoing the binding. And so everything you are doing here is something you're what do you do? What I'm saying, sorry. Like it's everything like what your user will be able to do. So if you follow all the standards, you will have all the power of WeWeb elements and components. And for example,
yeah, that's really cool for Sorry to do like what I don't know if we could call them like headless elements, but basically you could like code the logic of the elements, but what the user put inside it and how he or she designs it is up to him or her, you know. So you're not opinionated on the design.
There is a documentation. The link is here.
Yeah, I sent it in the chat a moment ago. I will send it back.
And if you go to API, you have a list of what's available. And as I said, the best things is to take a look at all our components. And because all our components are open sources, so you will find a lot of example about how we are doing stuff. So here, let's continue. And that's cool. But what we want is to use a draggable stuff. So we will use a library for that. And the library I want to use is Vue Draggable. So I will just install it.
Find the link of the library to send it.
Yeah, I wanted to put it on screen.
Is it a sortable JS one?
Yeah, it's a Vue implementation of sortable.
Nice, so found it.
So it's here. So something you have to take care if you are using an external library is that now, even if it's here for a few some years, everybody is using Vue 3 now. So WeWeb is also built with Vue 3. So if you are going to a library which is too old and still using Vue 2, this will not work inside WeWeb. So you need to double check that you are on the repository with the Vue 3 version. By convention, it's often named next, which means it's the next version, which is now basically the standard version of Vue, but we are still in this period of like transition.
My bad. So then I send the wrong link, sending the new one, because I found the Vue 2 one. Sorry.
Yeah, and often because the other libraries was there for a long time, the SEO is always in Google pushing you the old version. And then if you take a look at the README, there is, if you are searching for the Vue 3 version, please follow this link. So this is what we are doing. And this is what the library is able to do. So you have a nice things. So you see that there is a bunch of option you can see. I can see that there is like, I can have like a nice transition, and I have the power of all that library, and I just need to integrate it. So now that I have installed it, you will see that it's available here. And I advise you to remove this character, which is saying, if there is an updated version, please use this one. But because we are integrating a third-party libraries, we don't want our component to break because there will be an update of the version of the component we are using, and it's not working exactly the way we want it to work with our current implementation. So I advise you to fix your dependents and sometimes update them if there is new feature of bug fixing. But if you are actively updating the version yourself, you can check if it's working or not. If you are not fixing your version, then maybe with one deploy, this will use the new version, and maybe there is a bug with the new version and you will not know. So this is to avoid pulling automatically the new version of what you are using. And here, I will just take, I will just take what I already have, and I will talk to you about everything. So I need to import the draggable library, and I need to list it as a component available on my own component. And this is what I'm doing here. And then here I will need to describe what my items are. So I'm using here my my items, and I'm saying this is I'm using a bunch of stuff here, so I will explain. I can remove that to make it easier. And basically, you were asking what's happened if the data is not what I want or stuff like that. This is basically here, you will be defensive about the code. So for example, here, I may do something like that. Like, if this is an array, I will return it. If not, I will go with an empty array. And previously, when I copy pasted, you have seen this special function. It's because often you want your user to being able to bind to a collection or to an array. And in WeWeb, a collection is an object with a key with the data and some metadata on it. So there is a special function here. You can pass your data and it will always give you either the data inside the collection or directly the array if you bind to an array. So this is like a utility function to make it easier for your user to bind quicker their variable. And then we need to do something when the data are updated. So for that, it's a pattern very common in Vue. We'll have a way to get the data and we have a way to update the data. We get the data from the props and we update the data by emitting an event. And here we are using a special emit event, which is trigger event, which will be sending a WeWeb event so that you will be able to have a workflow.
Yeah, user can create workflows that react to this event using no code.
Linked or hooked to this event.
Use, as the trigger,
Yes, and so here you have the name of the event and what you will emit. And I will also add this.
For example, when you use like the data grid or the kanban, you can react to custom events, and that's event that we described in the code, and that's what we are doing now, like an unsubmit event in a form, for example.
Yeah. And I will need to describe that I have this special event so that this will be displayed on the workflow interface for the user. And so it's basically just the properties you will put in the configuration. And like you are describing what the input of your component are, you can describe what are the outputs. So here I'm saying there is a update list event. I'm putting a label on it. Having an overview of what the event will look like. And I will remove that for the moment. And I can say default true. If it's the default true, when you will create a workflow, by default, this will be the selected type of triggers, which is useful if you know that your component will mostly be used for this event. You want it to be selected by default. And I think I have everything to make it work. Hopefully,
yeah.
I still not talk about this, so I will remove it. So I'm trying again. Oh, I'm not on the correct one. Yeah. Perfect. So here I have my list. I need to bind it. So I will bind it. I have the repeat stuff in my flexbox. I will take this and this to be repeated in my flexbox. And I will just add a class to make it look better.
Nice.
And now I have that. And normally, if things are working, they are
nice. By default.
And working. Perfect. That's cool. And now, because I could have like implemented myself that there were an icon, and this icon is a burger icon. And here I can have implemented, it's always a text here. But because I have put a flexbox, I'm giving the user much more flexibility to use my component. And if later they want to have a more complex design here, then they can put whatever they want, and they will still have the possibility to drag and drop stuff.
And you can still bind the text, just to show that it's reactive.
You can still bind the text here. So here I can say I want the first name on my repeat, and now I have the first name.
Nice.
And because you are doing like, and here you have to find the best compromise between what you want your user being able to do and what you want to support. Like, because being flexible, it's always coming with a cost. So it's really depending on the context of why you are developing this component. So if I'm developing a component because I have a very specific design, very dependent of my use case for my company, you will probably have like a very how do you say that? I don't have the
Opinionated?
word. No. Like
Flexible?
you make choices for the user, so you force them, for example, that the layout of this
Yeah,
list will
opinionated.
all opinionated. That was the
Yeah.
word I was searching. So you can be very opinionated and, for example, don't let them change a lot of stuff and have only a few properties available. Or you can go crazy and say, I don't know, you want to put it on a marketplace, or you are a web agency if you want, and you want more option available so that you can use it differently depending on the client you are working for. It's really up to you. So I will show you like a few things we can add to this component, and I can go as crazy as I want. But I will just show you one or two example.
Yeah,
So
I think we are a bit late.
yeah, we are a bit late. That's why I'm going to do that very quickly. So something, for example, if you take a look at the Vue Draggable,